Hari Om. We'll chant the invocation. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vishavahhe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll chant from 26 to 35.
Anye tvevamajnantah Shrutvanyebhya upasate Tepi chati tarantyeva Mrityum shruti parayanaha Yavat sanjayate kinchit Sattvam sthavara jangamam Kshetra kshetrajna samyogat Tadvidhi bharatarshabha Samam sarveshu bhuteshu Tishtantam parameshwaram Vinashyatsva vinashyantam Yah pashyati sa pashyati Samam pashyan hi sarvatra Samavasthitamishwaram Nahi nastyatmanatmanam Tato yati param gatim Prakrityaiva cha karmani Kriyamanani sarvashah Yah pashyati tathatmanam Akartaram sa pashyati Yada bhuta prithak bhavam Ekasthamanu pashyati Tata eva cha vistaram Brahma sampadhyate tada Anaditvan nirgunatvat Paramatmayam avyayah Sharirasthopi kaunteya Na karoti na lipyate Yatha sarvagatam saukshmyat Akasham nopalipyate Sarvatravasthito dehe Tathatmanopalipyate Yatha prakashayatyekah Kritsnam lokamimam ravihi Kshetram kshetri tatha kritsnam Prakashayati bharata Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam Antaram jnana chakshusha Bhuta prakriti moksham cha Ye viduryanti te param
We are on chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. We are supposed to start from the 31st verse. So we'll chant that. We'll do the 31st verse. Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekasthamanupashyati tata eva cha vistaram Brahma sampadyate tada Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekasthamanupashyati Tata eva cha vistaram Brahma sampadyate tada. The verse states that when he perceives the diversified existence of beings as rooted in one and spreading forth from that alone, then he becomes Brahman. Now he's talking about a person, a yogi, an aspirant, a seeker. When is it that he merges with Brahman? When is it that he becomes one with that supreme reality? He says, he who perceives the diversified existence as rooted in one. We are our origin, from where we have emanated, or we have come forth. The substratum is the same. We all appear different from one another. All objects and beings of the world, one appears different, independent of each other. Appears that way, independent of one another. But actually we are all connected in the root, in the substratum. We are all connected with each other. Until this is recognized and known, we cannot merge with that reality. Underlying this is the reality. We have got caught up in the pluralistic phenomena, diversified phenomena, and therefore we are not able to understand the reality. We are trying to find out the reality through the diversification that has taken place. So by joining all these different parts, we are trying to understand the whole. But this world is a very limited expression of that whole, that supreme. So in this limited expression of objects and beings, if you try to understand the infinite, it is not possible to understand the infinite. We are caught up with the senses. Senses diversify. The mind diversifies. Everything becomes diversified when it comes through the mind, through the senses. So as an example, when the pure white light, you must have heard this example before, when pure white light is passed through a prism, it breaks into 7 Vibgoric colors. All one color appearing different from the other. Violet different from indigo, indigo different from blue, from green, from red, etc. They all appear very different with their own frequencies and own shades. But they have come from that same homogeneous one pure white light. They are all inherent in that, and they all combine to form that one homogeneous white light. Now, if you have to understand that truth, then you cannot understand by studying the Vibgoric pattern, the rainbow pattern which has appeared before you. If you study them individually, red, blue, green, etc., if you study them, you will not get the knowledge or awareness of that reality from which they have originated. For that, you have to rise above this. You have to discard it and go back to the root from where they have originated. You cannot get caught up in these various colors that have come out and then create more shades out of them. If you look at a shade card, there are hundreds and hundreds of shades, all with different densities, intensities, so many. So from 7 colors, you can make hundreds of shades more. Now, by dabbling into these colors and mixing them up in various combinations, mixing them up, and you are not going to understand what that white light is like. You can mix them up in very many ways. You can try your experiments in very many ways, but you will not get the knowledge of that white light. So how will you understand? You have to work. How did that get bifurcated? How did it get into this different shades? How did it come into its present way of appearance? So for that, you have to see what has caused it. It is the prism which has caused that. So beyond the prism, if you go, you see the light which is entering the prism is pure white light, but that which is coming out of the prism is bifurcated into very many colors. So you have to go beyond the prism. Now, what is it that in us, that consciousness gets split into this heterogeneous expression of life, of this world universe? What is it that causes this? So it is the prism of mind, intellect, and ego. This prism through which consciousness enters and then is expressed in so many various forms of thoughts, various forms of expressions, emotions, etc. It has expressed itself. And now by studying that and by getting involved in it and by creating more and more colors and more shades out of it and experimenting with it, you will never be able to understand the reality, the truth. You will always remain in limitation. You will always remain in heterogeneity, diversity. So what you need to do is go beyond the body, mind, intellect. That which is creating this ego, this mind, this intelligence, that is creating this limitation or conditioning of that consciousness, that has to be understood and transcended. That has to be transcended. So through yogic process, karma, bhakti, jnana, yoga, you purify the mind and ultimately merge your consciousness in that supreme consciousness. And having understood that supreme consciousness, which is non-diversified, which is one, and which is the substratum or root cause of all this heterogeneity, then you understand, and then he becomes Brahman. So Brahman is understood and recognized by a person who has transcended these limiting factors, the cause for this limitation, which is the body, mind, and the ego, which causes this limitation and creates this heterogeneity. So that one reality. So it is not in the objective sense study of the world. You study the world outside, you will continue to see only diversity. You will not be able to transcend diversity, because that which is causing the diversity is not being handled properly. The mind is creating more and more desires. The intelligence is creating more and more ideas and concepts. So when the consciousness falls on such a mind and such an intellect, it splits the consciousness, creates so much of diversity around you. So unless you raise yourself above the mind and intelligence and recognize that consciousness which is not conditioned, which is unconditioned, that unconditioned state of consciousness. So we are in touch with the consciousness, but we are in touch with the consciousness which has become conditioned. Consciousness is the same, but the consciousness has become conditioned. For example, if you are speaking, you are listening to me, but when I'm talking through a gadget and my voice is getting distorted in some way, so you're listening to me, you're hearing me, but you're not hearing me in the original way. The way I'm speaking, you're not hearing it in that way. You're hearing it in a distorted manner. Now, what is this distorted manner? Why is it distorted? It is distorted because the gadget through which I am speaking is distorting my voice, is creating distortions in it. So therefore, as long as you study the output from a distorted medium which is distorting it, and you are trying to study the output from that medium, you will never be able to understand what the original is. So in order to understand the original, you have to get yourself away from this medium which is distorting the original. So that's why they say that you are in touch with God. You are in touch with your Godhood. You are in touch with that pure consciousness, but you are not recognizing it as it is. You are recognizing it in its very distorted form. Now, when it is distorted, then the expression also gets distorted. And you are trying to find clarity and happiness and permanency through this distortion. So, howsoever we may study the universe, which is a product of our senses and the mind, which is a product of our ignorance, which is a misapprehension of that reality, howsoever you may study, it will not lead you to that ultimate answer. It will not lead you to that ultimate happiness and fulfillment. It will not lead you to what you are actually looking for. And therefore, your search will continue and continue and continue. So, what are we looking for? We are looking for that one reality, that one supreme substratum from which this diversification has taken place. So, we have to understand the cause of the diversification. The cause of the diversification is ignorance of that reality, ignorance of the truth, and misapprehending it as something else, what it is not. So, even though you are seeing it, but you are not seeing it as it is. You're seeing it in its various names and forms. So common example that we give, that all pots are made of clay, all ornaments are made of gold, all furniture is made of, let's say, wood. So the substratum of all this is the same, but yet they appear different in their manifested form. Some are big pots, some are square pots, some are round pots, some are tall pots, some are short pots, etc., etc. Names and forms are different. My pot, your pot, his pot, her pot. So they various types of categories you have divided it into. The pot is created, the pot is sustained, and it is destroyed. The pot will go through this various stages, but the clay is not created. Clay is always there. It is not sustained. It is ever sustaining, and it is not destroyed. When the pot is destroyed, the clay is not destroyed. It is still there. So if you consider yourself as that perishable, limited aspect, if you consider yourself as body or your thoughts, then they have their birth and they have their death. They are created and they are destroyed. This is the cycle which is inevitable, inherent in life and in this universe. You cannot overcome the cycle of birth and death in the universe as long as you are connected to this limited aspect of life. But the only way is to recognize the imperishable inside you, that which is imperishable. If you recognize that, then even though the body perishes, you know you don't perish. You are not destroyed when the body is destroyed. This is said in the second chapter itself of Bhagavad Gita. When you find all these people arrayed in the battle, when their bodies are destroyed, you are not destroyed. Why? Because within the perishable is the imperishable. He who has not recognized the imperishable, he feels he is destroyed and then he is created. But who has recognized the imperishable, he finds himself that he is not destroyed, he is not created or destroyed. He is everlasting, he is ever there. So he who perceives that diversified existence of beings as rooted in one, spreading forth from that alone, then he becomes Brahman. That reality is recognized and he reaches his ultimate destination or goal or purpose of life. So it's not a physical study, neither is it a mental or intellectual study. You use the physical body, you use the mental and intellectual equipments to transcend them and recognize, not get more and more involved in it, not get more and more attached to it, stuck to it. You get use these things to transcend these things. That oft quoted example of the pole vault, where you use the pole to jump over the barrier or the bar, which is somewhere at 20 feet. You cannot jump over 20 feet without the use of the pole, but at the same time you cannot jump using that sticking onto that pole. So it helps you go up to that point, and then you purify yourself, and then you transcend that. In the state of meditation, you merge into that supreme reality, supreme self. So thus, instead of going downstream, you go upstream. You go back to the consciousness, to the self within yourself. Then we'll do the 32nd verse. अनादित्वा निर्गुणात्वात् परमात्मायमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यते. अनादित्वा निर्गुणत्वात् परमात्मायमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय na karoti na lipyate. Being without beginning or gunas, qualities, this supreme self, imperishable, though dwelling in the body, O Kaunteya, neither acts nor is tainted. Being without beginning. See, everything in this world, whatever we know as an object, is created at some point of time. The individual himself is born at some point of time. And another aspect of this world is that everything and being which is in this world is having gunas, is formed of qualities. A mountain is a mountain because of certain qualities that it has. A horse is a horse because of certain qualities it has had. The rose is a rose because of certain qualities which differentiates it from another flower or another species or another object. So this combination of qualities which creates a particular object or a being, by which it is differentiated by another object which is made up of another assembly of qualities. So the qualities that I have may be different from qualities of somebody else, with some commonness, of course. There are some, but something more enhanced or something less in proportion. These various types of qualities in different proportions create differentiations in human beings. So these objects are nothing but an assembly of qualities. If you change your qualities, you appear like a different person. Somebody meets you after 10, 15 years, 20 years and says, oh, you have changed so much. So when they say you have changed so much, something in your being, some qualities have changed. Your appearance has changed, your way of talking has changed, your way of conducting yourself has changed. Something has changed. So when these qualities change, these qualities are always in a flux of change. So when they change, you also change. But the Atman is not within the qualities. It doesn't have the qualities the way we have. It is guna atit, beyond any qualities. You cannot say it is strong. You cannot say it is intelligent. It is very resourceful. No, it is beyond qualities, and yet all qualities emanate from it. It is the reservoir of all qualities, yet itself transcends all qualities. It doesn't have any qualities. Again, taking the example of the pot and the clay. The pot may be big, pot may be rounded, pot may have a particular type of opening, pot may have a handle, pot may be tall, short. But you cannot say all these qualities are coming from the clay. The clay, through the clay, you have created the tallness, you have created the roundness, you have created a handle with it, you have created all these things. But the clay doesn't have these qualities. These qualities, you can make the pot short or less rounded, or with handle or without a handle. You can bring about changes in the qualities of the pot, but you cannot bring about change in the clay. Clay remains clay, whether it is in the body, whether it is in the neck of it, or whether it's in the handle, wherever it is. It's all pervaded by clay. But yet the handle is different from the neck, neck is different from the base is different from the body, etc. So these diversities which come about, and the pot is created. You have made it at a particular time, and it is not going to last forever. It has a life. After some time, either because of accident or because of whatever, because of time, it starts to wear off. So this type of lifespan that it has, that it is created and then it is destroyed, and it is made of qualities, this is the guna of Prakriti. This is not the guna of the self. The self has no such qualities, so you cannot study it through the qualities. But then sometimes we talk of qualities with reference to the self. For example, we say a self-realized man is universally loving. He has absolute clarity. See, these qualities still limit your, but when you they are sattvic qualities. When sattva begins to increase in you, then your sense of peace, sense of happiness, sense of clarity, sense of universality, your love purifies and becomes universal. So when sattva increases, these qualities which we are made up of, they start getting purified. And when you reach pure sattva cannot sustain by itself, then it transcends the gunas and merges into the self. So here you have to understand that we have to, when we are dealing with the gunas. We cannot directly deal with the transcendental. We have to deal with the gunas. But you have to deal with the gunas, you have to purify the gunas. Instead of purifying the gunas, what we are doing is we are just getting it more and more involved in that and grossifying it. So when we become more self-centered, more egoistic, more within ourselves, we separate ourselves from the rest of the existence. We bifurcate ourselves, we diversify ourselves. Then you are moving away from that reality. You're just becoming a very non-entity, a very small pebble in the whole cosmos. No doubt, we have to deal with the gunas. We have to work through the gunas and then work ourselves towards guna atit. Just like if you have to go to the terrace of the building, you have to go through the steps. But when you keep on climbing and then you reach the top floor, and then ultimately you leave the steps and step onto the terrace. So you use the steps not to go down, but go up and then step onto the terrace. The terrace is beyond the steps. You cannot keep on standing on the steps. You have to go beyond the steps and then go onto the terrace. Similarly, you have to use your gunas to climb up, purify yourself, subtleize yourself, expand yourself. So when our consciousness becomes more and more purified, Ultimately, it becomes so purified. It reaches the absolute state of purity. That absolute state of purity is called the universal identification. But universal identification itself, universe itself is a pebble in total Brahman. Universe is a very small expression of the total Brahman. Like that, there are infinite number of universes. But when you reach that state of infinite, universal identification, from there you transcend the equipments and you merge into that supreme reality. So that's why it is said through yoga, through yogic practices, through karma, bhakti, gyan, through karma yoga, we reduce our ego, we reduce our selfishness. Through the bhakti yoga, we purify our minds, we purify our emotions. Emotions become more and more pure, more and more universal. And through Jnana Yoga, we ascend to that clarity. We learn to differentiate between the impermanent and the permanent, between the real and the unreal, between that universal and the limited. So through karma, bhakti, gyan, we begin to understand the subtleties of our knowledge and expand our consciousness. Ultimately, in that state of consciousness, pure consciousness, we transcend the pure. So where is God? God is beyond pure and impure, beyond limited and unlimited, beyond the form and formless. It is indescribable. But to reach that, you have to reach that state of absolute purity. From there, you get transcended into, just like a cube of ice when it is kept in water. It is in water, it is water, but water doesn't have a dimension the way an ice cube has. Ice cube may be 1 inch by 1 inch. So it is, if you freeze it more and more, it becomes more hard. It becomes more and more isolated from the rest. It loses its wateriness. It becomes like a hard, like a rock. But when it starts dissolving, slowly it dissolves, and ultimately the ice cube doesn't, ice cube dissolves into water. It doesn't get destroyed, but it dissolves. It becomes water. So from that hard 1 inch by 1 inch cube, it dissolves and it merges into water and becomes expansive. So the more it dissolves, the more it becomes expansive. The more we are self-centered, the more we are caught up in our attachments and desires, the more we are away from the reality. The more we suffer, the more grounds we create for sorrow and suffering. The more unselfish we become, the more grounds we create for peace and happiness and clarity. So until that clarity is not achieved, that supreme clarity is not achieved, that only leads us towards happiness and inner fulfillment and satisfaction. So we are not these limited names and forms. We are not these limited ideas and viewpoints that we carry. That's why you have to investigate. Whatever am I thinking? Is it the truth? We hold on to our ideas. We don't investigate into our ideas. We hold on to our ideas. We hold on to our thoughts. We hold on to our emotions and attachments. But a yogi questions. He questions whatever I am believing, whatever I am thinking is so true, is so real, is so what I feel is so real. Is it real? Is it how it is? We have formed very strong opinions within ourselves. We are not even ready to investigate and question कि जो मैं सोच रहा हूँ वो correct है कि नहीं है. or as an example, 2 plus 2 is 4. Now, if somebody says, no, investigate, he says, no, no, nothing to investigate. You are not even ready to listen to what he has to say because you have made up your mind. It is 4. There is no further question. But at the end of it, are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you free of struggling? You're still struggling. So you have made your opinions as the basis of your life. You have made your ideas and thoughts as the basis of life. And you're not ready to, it is me. The ego is so strong. The conditioning is so strong. Sometimes you try to explain to a person why is he suffering and how he can get out of that suffering. He doesn't understand at all. He thinks you are criticizing him. He thinks you are attacking him. You are not being good to him. He wants to live in his false beliefs. He wants to live as it is and then find a solution. He's so caught up with his ideas, his thoughts and emotions that he suffers. And you try to tell him about where he is making a mistake or where he is stuck. He is not ready, just like you will not allow a doctor to touch your wound because it pains you. So you will not let him. So he will not be able to heal you until he touches you. So you have got so stuck up with your ideas and attachments that if somebody touches that area, talks about it, addresses it, you shirk back, you move away because you're not able to bring about that change. But there is no other way but to slowly start questioning, start understanding, start reflecting upon what you are, who you are. We are absolutely frozen in our thinking. We gather knowledge from the outside, but inside we are frozen. Even in spiritual field, this is my school of thought, this is your school of thought, this is me, this is you, etc., etc. It goes on. There is no uh, investigation into the truth. The best thing that you can tell yourself sometimes is that I don't know. How many of us have the guts to say that I don't know? We always have to prove a point. We always have to show that I know. Sometimes, even something as simple as this, that you are trying to look for an address and therefore you stop your car and ask a passerby, do you know this address? Even if he doesn't know, he will guide you somewhere or the other. Try going there, try going there. Instead of saying, sorry, I don't know. He will not say, sorry, I don't know. These are things, we are very allergic to this wonderful expression that I don't know. It's a beautiful expression. It frees you of so many things. Frees you of a burden that you're carrying throughout your life. Simple thing like, if I don't know, but my ego gets hurt. I want to be recognized. I want to be idealized. I want to be known. So how can I say I don't know? So I'll try to somehow squeeze my way through it by misguiding also. Pretending to know. This pretense. Then there is no question of surrendering. Ultimately, I do not know the truth. Whatever I know is not the truth. So why should I have any qualms or reservations in accepting the fact that I don't know? And investigate. Be ready to learn. It doesn't make you less respectful, less important. In fact, it makes you evolve, makes you grow, makes the other person respect you even more. That you have the capacity to say, yes, this I don't know. This capacity to say, I don't know. This is the first quality of a jnani. Which is in the same chapter we learned. What is knowledge? in response to what is knowledge. Krishna doesn't say that knowledge is you have learnt all the Upanishads, all the Vedas, all the Bhagavad Gita. No, he says knowledge is humility. Knowledge is unpretentiousness. Knowledge is forgiveness. Knowledge is detachment. These are the qualities. They gave 20 qualities of a jnani. This is knowledge. He didn't say a head loaded with information, loaded with knowledge. That is knowledge. No, that is not knowledge. That is ignorance. If you have true knowledge, you will naturally develop these qualities. You will become humble. You will become unpretentious. Why should I pretend I know when I don't know? Why can't you be frank and present yourself as it is? If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. So if a person is naturally humble, humility doesn't mean you are falling at everybody's feet, but humility means I accept my ignorance. I am not Dr. Know-it-all. I have my vulnerabilities. I'm just an ordinary human being. Within me is that supreme consciousness. I must surrender to it. I must be open to new knowledge. I must be open to raising myself and shedding my old skin. So if I'm not ready to shed my skin, then there is no chance of evolving and growing into something else. So therefore, a person who purifies himself, questions himself, but this attachment doesn't allow us to grow. I am attached to my quality. If I am rude, I will not want to change. If I am short-tempered, I don't like to change. I keep on giving the blame to somebody else. I keep on saying it is because of him, it is because of the situation, it is because of that person. I don't accept the fact that I am short-tempered. I am irritable. I lose it very fast. That's it. It's not because of anybody else. It is because it is inside me. That person comes in contact with so many people. He doesn't irritate everybody. He irritates you because there is irritation inside you. You will not work on your irritation. You will work on the world. You will try to change the world. You will not try to change yourself. So therefore, until these gunas are not purified, they are not. Then you, by purifying, by constantly raising your level, don't allow yourself to be stuck by these attachments. Mind has a tendency to get attached. You see, it's very strange how the mind gets attached. It's nothing to do with your welfare. It has nothing to do with your happiness. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. The thing may be harming you a lot. It may be destroying you, but you will not be able to leave it. This is attachment. It is blind. It doesn't see the merit of a thing. It doesn't see the merit of any situation. It's just attached. That's it. This is my idea. This is my opinion. What do you have to say? This is my idea. But it's not right. And I may be suffering as a result of it, but I will not leave it. Doctor says don't have so much tea and coffee. No, sir, but I am addicted to it. This is. Doctor says your health is getting destroyed because of it. A lot of problems getting created because of it. But you're not able to leave it. We justify it. Some person is attached to smoking. He'll smoke. Drinking. He'll drink. Even the doctor may give him a certificate that if you continue like this, I don't give you more than a year or so. But still he is not able to leave it. This is attachment. It is destroying us. It is leading us to suffering and destruction. But the mind says, no, it itself is getting destroyed. The mind itself is getting destroyed. It is suffering. The body is suffering. But still the mind says, I will not leave it. I cannot leave it. I will not leave it. Now, will such a person ever grow? These type of attachments are there in us at every stage, in every level, not only in health, even in our emotional state, even in our intellectual level. There are attachments. There are people in the scientific world who gets attached to their ideas because they are from a particular age or from a particular class of thinkers. They get attached to their ideas. So somebody else may keep on proving. He will not be open to it. A scientific temperament means that you are open to, you don't get stuck to ideas. But in the scientific world, you will find many people getting stuck to ideas. They will not change. They'll try to prove the point in their way, and they are not open to other reasoning. Sometimes it happens even in the scientific world, even in the spiritual world, even in the Vedantic world. You get stuck to ideas. You're not ready to listen. You're not ready to revise your opinions. You're just stuck. This is my idea. This is my school of thought. This is my way. It may be your school of thought, but do you know the truth? Schools of thoughts are not truth. They only lead you to a truth if you're open to it. But you get stuck to the idea. Like if somebody is pointing at the moon, you keep on looking at the finger. You're not ready to leave the finger. He is pointing towards the moon. He is showing you the moon with his finger. But you are not. Moon has nothing to do with the finger. But you are so stuck with his hand that you are not ready to see where he is pointing. You are only seeing by what he is pointing. Vedas are pointers. They don't give you the truth directly. They are not direct revelations of truth. They are pointers. If you follow that path, if you follow their way of thinking, then it will lead you to the truth, direct realization of the truth. But for that, you must be careful that on the way, there are many wayside robbers, as we say, who are ready to take away your knowledge, ready to take away your thinking and get you stuck and take away your wealth from you. So, that supreme self, which is without beginning and it is imperishable. All our ideas, all our thoughts, all our experiences are perishable. Though dwelling in the body, O Kantya, it neither acts nor is tainted. See, a physical thing can affect my physical body. It cannot affect my thought because thought is subtle. You can put, like they say, you can put my body in the prison, but you cannot put my thought in my prison. Thought is wandering all over the place. You cannot put the thought in the prison. You can put the body in the prison. Physical things can only give you physical experiences and be affected by it. Emotionally, intellectually, it is more expansive. It is more powerful. It is more uh, capable. So when you identify with your emotions and then with your intelligence, your capacities increase manifold. But when this thought is purified and subtilized, as your mind becomes more and more subtle, its capacities begin many folds. जैसे कहते हैं ना सिद्धि हो, उसको सिद्धि है. Siddhi is nothing but a subtle thought in progress. He has a siddhi. Einstein has a siddhi. Ramanujan, the mathematician, had a siddhi. He could solve intricate problems which even best of brains couldn't solve. Because his thought was at a very subtle level. Shakespeare, Kalidas, they could write that literature because their thoughts were operating at a very subtle level. So when you go into that subtle level, certain expressions become possible for you because of the subtlety. that subtle level, once you are there, then it is not affected by the gross. The gross cannot affect it. Subtle cannot be affected by the gross. You are too much above them. You are too beyond affectations by these people or these things or their ideas. We get affected by small things because that is our level. जिस level पे हो उससे affect हो जाते हो. But when you are flying in some different level altogether, Krishna is not affected by all this. He knows what dharma is. He knows what righteousness is. He knows what the truth is. So Duryodhan can behave the way he wants to behave. Krishna is not affected. He knows the consequences of that behavior. So when we reach that state, the higher we reach, the less we are affected by the world. The lower you come, the more you are affected by the world. Understand? Love gets converted into attachment. Attachment gets affected by the world. Love is not affected by the world. Love is love. Knowledge conditioned by the mind is affected by the world. Oh, you don't agree, I don't agree, this agree, that agree. It gets affected by the world. True knowledge is not affected by the world. Nahi manna mat mano. You suffer. If you don't want to listen to the doctor, how is the doctor going to get affected? You will get affected. Doctor can advise you. He can be compassionate towards you. He can say things with force also. Please, son, please do this. Otherwise, you'll land yourself in trouble. Now, if you don't want to listen to him, how is he affected? You will be affected. But if the doctor himself is at a very gross level and he starts fighting with his patient, how dare you don't listen to me? How do then he is himself at a very gross level. But he can advise. A rishi can advise. A guru can advise. He can suggest. He can talk to you. He can reason out with you. But if you don't listen, then you don't listen. So the subtler you get more and more detached from the general worldly happenings around you. It is attachment, it is conditioning which gets affected by somebody saying good or bad or right or wrong or responding to you or not responding to you. Love is not affected. Truth is not affected. And same principle, when you take it to the self is not affected at all. It is beyond anything and everything. It is like space. You can make as many buildings in it, it doesn't get divided. You can throw as much color on it, it doesn't get colored. Space doesn't get colored. Wall can get colored, your clothes can get colored, water can get colored, but space doesn't get colored. You can burn as much fire into it, it doesn't get burnt. Just like space is not affected by the grosser elements that are around it. Atman is subtler than the subtlest. It is not affected by the gross happenings of the world. So the more we subtleize ourselves, inversely proportionately we are affected by the world. The more you grossify yourself, the more you lower your levels, the more you are affected by the world. So therefore he says, using the same principle, that doesn't act and is not tainted. Is not tainted means not affected. It doesn't even act. It happens. It just happens. Sun doesn't come and do things for you. But in the presence of sun, everything, whole life starts bustling. Everybody gets up and so much activity is done, so much vegetation starts growing, everything happens because the sun is there. In the presence of Atman, everything happens. Because of Atman, everything is possible. Just like because of electricity, everything is possible. But electricity doesn't have light, electricity doesn't have sound, electricity doesn't have heat or coolness. But because of electricity, you can get sound from your transistor, you can get a picture from your television, you can get coolness from your air conditioner, etc. Electricity doesn't directly get into it. That's the equipment. Equipment has a particular quality, so it will give sound, or it will give light, or it will give heat, etc. Electricity is just there. Similarly, consciousness is just there. Consciousness doesn't interfere with anything. It is not affected by anything. And yet, in presence of consciousness, everything is happening and everything is being done. That is consciousness. So, as we get closer and closer to consciousness, a yogi is not affected. He understands the world, but he is not affected by the world. If you listen to him, you're good. If you don't listen to him, that's it. If you give him respect and honor, well and good. If you don't give, it's up to you. It's your doing. He is not going to pay the price for it or get affected by it. You do good karma, you get good results. You do bad karmas, you get bad results. A rishi who has understood the laws of life, who has understood and established himself in that higher knowledge, in that higher aspect, he doesn't directly interfere with you, nor is he affected by you. He lives in that supreme grace, in that supreme understanding, in that supreme light. He stays there. He does everything. Everything happens. His body, mind, intellect, everything functions. But he is established in that supreme consciousness, which is not affected by the happenings, which causes everything to happen. But by itself, it remains objective and a witness to everything that is happening. So that being which is without any beginning is Guna Atit, is the supreme self, imperishable, dwelling in the body. It dwells in the body, but it neither acts nor is tainted by anything that is happening. So this is the 31st verse. 32nd verse. So we'll conclude the class here and we'll continue next time. We'll conclude with the mantra. We'll say the mantra and Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om